Welcome back to the Paris newsroom at France 24. So we're taking a look through the day's top business news stories now with Matthew Warren. Hello there, Matthew.
Hi, Catherine.
We're going to be starting off with some very eagerly awaited results from Apple.
That's right. Results for the first 3 months of the year. And let's not forget, it's been a pretty rocky road for Apple, at least in terms of its share price over recent months. After it hit 700 euros and everyone thought it was going to keep going even higher, it's been falling since then, down 40% to just over 400 euros at yesterday's close. Well, after that close, those results came out and this is how they looked. Revenues were up. They actually beat expectations. They were up 11%, but it's this profit number that's been causing concern. It fell. That was for the first time in a decade. That number was down $9.5 billion. And what's more worrying to investors is the fact that this profit margin that used to be so amazing at Apple, over 70% in the Steve Jobs era, has been falling and falling. It's now at around 37%. That's 10% down on just a year ago.
OK, and how about the sales of those products then?
Well, despite that, people still seem to like their iPhones and their iPads. Sales of both were up in the first 3 months of the year. iPhones 7%, iPad a very healthy 65%, just showing that that tablet market continues to do well. Investors will be able to give their proper verdict on all of this when Wall Street opens later this Wednesday.
OK, so we'll have an update on that tomorrow, I'm sure. The US markets, though, they had a roller coaster ride on Tuesday.
Yes, let's hope we don't see more of this. As you've been reporting already today, there was this fake tweet from the Associated Press news agency, very credible news agency, of course. So a lot of people believed it, that there have been these explosions in the White House. Well, let's take a look at what happened to the Dow Jones after that news broke. It was going along quite nicely. And then that sudden drop, that was a 1% drop, in fact.
Absolute plunge.
Now, it quickly regained its composure after a swift denial by Associated Press, and the White House, the president's spokesman there as well, also just confirmed that all was well. Let's take a listen.
I just want to say at the top that it appears as though AP's Twitter account has been hacked, so anything that was just sent out about any incident at the White House is obviously false, and we'll be putting something out hopefully shortly to clarify that if that hasn't happened already. And we'll be putting something out hopefully shortly to clarify that if that hasn't happened already.
Good, I thank you for that. I appreciate that, and I can say that the president is fine. I was just with him.
Jay Carney confirming all fine there. Well, let's take a look at what happened at the end of the trading day on Wall Street. The markets all managed gains of around 1% by the end of the session. And over in Asia, markets there have also been trading up so far in this Wednesday's trading session. The Nikkei up almost 2 points, as is the Shanghai Composite there.
OK, we're going to come back here to Europe now with a sign from Spain, a very stark sign, Matthew, of how badly the economy is going. It's reflected in the population figures now.
Yes, people sort of voting with their feet almost on what's happening. The population actually dropping in Spain for the first time in many years last year. It's official figures out confirming that. Now, many immigrants who went to Spain in the boom years before the economic crisis are leaving, as are native Spaniards who have been out of work, as Siobhan Silk reports.
Antonio Carrio's dream was a career in academia, but to make it come true, he had no choice but to leave his home country.
I work in Montpellier here at Paul Valéry University, where I teach Spanish.
Despite his master's degree at home, Antonio was unemployed for 3 years and had few prospects, so he packed his bags.
There are very few jobs and a lot of people looking. It's easier to leave than to stay.
With Spain's jobless rate hitting a record 26%, more and more Spaniards are trying their chances abroad. In 2012, the number of Spanish citizens living outside the country went up by over 114,000, a rise of 6.3%. And even people who once made the trip into Spain are turning back. In the first decade of the century, Spain attracted thousands of immigrants every year, especially from Latin America. But by the end of 2012, there were 216,000 fewer foreign citizens in Spain compared to the year before. This family made the difficult decision to return to their native country of Ecuador.
We thought we were coming to paradise, but we were wrong. We came for a new life, but the crisis is sending us away.
The hemorrhage means that for the first time since 1998, Spain's overall population has dropped.
Silk reporting there. Well, let's get some of the day's company news now. And a boardroom coup at the French hotel giant Accor. The chairman and chief executive, Denis Hennequin, has been ousted. The board says it's happy with the strategy Hennequin has put in place, but it says results are not coming through fast enough. Well, shares in Accor were down 2% in Paris on Tuesday on that news.
Sales are down at the French carmaker PSA Peugeot Citroen. Revenues came in at 13 billion euros for the first 3 months of the year. That's a drop of 6.5%. The company says new economy measures could be necessary to meet its full-year targets.
But profits up at US Airways. The airline said it carried more passengers, boosting revenue by 3.5%. US Airways set to merge with the American Airlines to create the world's biggest airline. Shares in US Airways are up 5% on Wall Street.
Now, I don't think any of those planes that we just saw there were Dreamliners, but that's a plane that we've certainly been talking about a lot recently, isn't it? The Boeing plane, and there's an inquiry to find out just what's gone wrong with them.
That's right, because of course Boeing was forced to order all of those Dreamliners that are out in service, just 50 for the time being, to be grounded after these battery fires that took place. Well, an inquiry has now been set up trying to find out how that plane was allowed to fly in the first place. Well, Stephen Carroll reports.
Looking for lessons from the Dreamliner debacle, the US National Transportation Safety Board wants to establish how a trusted brand like Boeing could put a plane in the skies with a faulty battery system.
We are looking for lessons learned, not just for the design and certification of the failed battery, but for knowledge that can be applied to emerging technologies going forward.
The board heard that it was Boeing that wrote the safety conditions for the lithium-ion battery and then carried out the tests on it. They concluded a short circuit wouldn't create a fire, but that's what the investigators think happened on board a Dreamliner as it sat on the tarmac at Boston's Logan Airport.
The only time we were ever able to make a cell vent with fire was with significant overcharging.
Forced to ground old Dreamliners for almost 3 months, Boeing is trying to build confidence in the aircraft before it returns to the skies. The Federal Aviation Administration gave the green light for a revamped version of the battery last week.
We understand and are regretful of the impacts that we've had to our customers and to their customers. So our focus from the very beginning was to resolve the issue and come up with a comprehensive, permanent, robust set of solutions.
The airlines that own the 50 grounded Dreamliners will be watching this hearing closely. At least one, the Polish carrier LOT, has said it will seek damages from Boeing over the problems with the aircraft.
Well, we'll be hearing more from Boeing later this Wednesday. They'll be releasing their first quarter results and we'll be able to see whether any of all those problems have had an impact on the figures.
OK, right. Well, something else that we've been talking about in the news today, obviously, same-sex marriage has been legalised here in France. Cause for celebration for a great many people. And also probably a cause for celebration for some businesses in France.
That's right. It's interesting, the business boost that perhaps legalising same-sex marriage could have. Now, countries and states in the US where this have happened have been looking at what that boost has been. Now, in New York, after they legalised it in 2011, they actually set up a campaign called NYC I Do to encourage same-sex couples to travel to New York because of course it helps hotels, restaurants, jewelers as well. Now they have estimated that in the first year after that legalization, $259 million were added to the economy there. So I suppose if Paris takes a leaf out of that book, they could be cashing in on same-sex marriage now.
Lovely. Potentially good news for Paris there.
That's right.
We're going to finish on a coin with a face value of just 5 cents, but it could sell for millions of dollars. How does this alchemy work?
I know, it's amazing. The lesson here, I think, is to keep hold of any old coins because this is one that dates back 100 years. There it is. It's a nickel that's worth 5 cents. Now, it's going to be auctioned and the bids for it are currently just over $2 million. Now, it's strange the coin has an interesting story because the owners of it actually sent it in for auction many years ago, and it was rejected because they said, no, it's a fake. But very wisely, they held onto it. They tried again, and 10 years ago, it was decided that it was, in fact, authentic, and now they're able to cash in. And
selling it when it's 100 years old as well. I think that probably has a bit more cachet.
There are only 5 of these coins, apparently, around now, so that's adding to the value. So maybe we'll have to wait a while before those sort of
I'm going to be going
€1.
through my purse looking for old euros, definitely.
So.
Thanks very much, Matthew Warren, with a roundup of the day's business news. And that also rounds up this half hour of Live from Paris. Thanks for being with us. Stuart Norvell back very shortly.